Welcome back to Lisa's Family Table. Today, we're gonna do one of my husband's favorites, Steak and Eggs Benedict. And I have an extra special treat for you today because we're also gonna do a coffee affogato. So let me kind of go over the recipe a little bit because there's a lot of pieces, but don't be intimidated because it's super easy. What we've done is we bought 2 8-ounce fillets and I've cut them in half because these are gonna go on English muffins. I've cut my English muffins in half and I'm gonna put them under my broiler because that's gonna be easier than trying to do 2 at a time in my toaster kind of thing. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna poach our eggs. I've already got some water boiling and I've got my 4 eggs here. One of my tricks is I put a little bit of white distilled vinegar in my water, a couple tablespoons in my water. And what that does, it helps the white around the egg coagulate and it holds its shape. So you'll have a prettier egg. So let's begin. We're going to sear the steaks first. Then while those rest, we will go ahead and poach our eggs. Then we will make the hollandaise because the hollandaise is going to come together pretty quickly. What I've done is I put a stick of butter in this pan here and I've got it on my lowest temperature because the key to doing a blender hollandaise is your butter has to be hot. What I did earlier after I cut my steaks in half is I put my LSR, my Lisa steak rub on them. And because I am gonna go really hot and fast with this, I'm gonna use an oil that has a high flash point, meaning it won't burn. My new favorite is avocado oil. I use a lot of it, so that's what I'm gonna use as soon as this pan gets hot. And we're gonna sear these, and they're only gonna take about 1.5 minutes aside. And then I'm gonna take this pan, put them in here, set it aside, let them rest. I'm gonna rotate over to poaching my eggs. And then once I poach my eggs and I have them on a plate draining, then we'll start our blender hollandaise. And really the English muffins, I've already got my broiler on behind me. It's only gonna take a second. My pan's coming up, it's getting really hot. I can put my hand over it, I can barely hold it there, so it's getting really hot. And these steaks are pretty thin, so if they were 8 ounce to start, I cut them in approximate half. They're only gonna be about 4 ounces. So this is gonna go pretty quick. So I'm putting the oil in, and I've got some butter here that I'm gonna finish it with. But right now I just wanna get these inside my pan, and I want to get a good sear on them. Like I said, these are really small. Gonna go really fast. So when you're putting stuff in a hot pan, you want to go away from you like this because you don't want the oil to jump up and burn you. And you're just kind of wanting to put these in and flatten them out a little bit. Like that. And then I'm going to rotate my dirty pan. I got a clean pan under here. And the steak will tell you when it's ready to turn because see this one right now, it's kind of sticking. Well, it's not ready to. So let the steak tell you. When it's seared on that side, it'll release naturally. It won't be a difficult thing. It won't be sticking. Got a great sear on this one. And you really want these to be a little thinner right this. You're gonna have the English muffin. You're gonna put the steak on it. You're gonna put the poached egg on that. And you're gonna drizzle it with the hollandaise sauce. And I've got a little bit of chopped green onion here that I'm going to put a little color on it. And I'm going to grab my thermometer. I do have a pretty good feel most of the time and with my hand. I mean, I've had thermometers that didn't work well during a competition and I've had to adjust. And one of the things is you want to calibrate your thermometers. And the best way to do that is you take the thermometer and put it in a glass of ice water. And if it reads 32 degrees, you know it's calibrated and it's working well. And I always do that with my thermometers before I go to a competition. I calibrate all of them. So that's just a thought if you aren't sure if it's reading correctly. The grill grates is perfect. I love the fact that the digits are large and I can see them. And I've got my pan of water here. The key to a poached egg is you want the water boiling, and then we're going to turn it down where it's a soft rolling boil. If you do it where it's still, it's hot, but it's just still like this, the egg is not going to come together and it's going to kind of spread out and you're not going to get that pretty, egg that you want. So I'm going to get my plate over here. I just got a paper plate, put some napkin on it. And that way when I put the egg in, I'm going to swirl the water before I put the egg in. And I've got my eggs, put them in these like little bowls, a small bowl, so that you, number one, can check, make sure the egg's okay. It's easier to put it in the water. So I've got my 4 eggs here. I'm ready to do that. And have a slotted spoon ready. And as soon as we come to boil, we'll go ahead and poach these. And it's only going to take about 3 minutes. And again, similar to a steak, I'm looking for a good runny poached egg. So my water is now boiling. As I mentioned, it's got the distilled vinegar in it. It's only a couple tablespoons for all this water. You don't want it to be so much, but it will help coagulate it. So I'm just going to kind of create a little bit of a circular motion here. And then I'm going to turn my heat down just a smidge so my rolling boil stops a little bit. And I've got my eggs here. And I'm just going to gently, gently put them in there. And then they start to come together. And you can kind of help them a little bit. Just kind of bring that white stuff together. And we'll trim these up when they come out so they're prettier. And you want to go ahead and move it some so it doesn't stick to the bottom. So these are coming along nicely. As soon as I pull them out, we'll kind of clean up the little straggly pieces so they're pretty. Okay. And they do make egg poaching pans. If this is just not your thing, you don't want to mess with it. I have one of those. They're available at Bed Bath & Beyond, or most places you can find them. And it makes poaching eggs a lot simpler. And what I'm going to do is, while I'm waiting on those, I'm going to pop my English muffins under my broiler. And like I said, you can do these in a toaster, or you can do these in the broiler. And we'll have to keep an eye on those. It won't be the first time I've burned bread. And my butter is really hot, which is what I want. You want your butter to be really hot. My eggs are looking beautiful. And the key with the butter when you're doing a blender hollandaise is if the butter isn't hot, it won't come together. So that's really, you don't want it to be where you're scorching it or making it a brown butter or anything like that, but you do want it to be hot. Pull my muffins out before they get too dark. Couldn't have timed that better. Okay, oven off. You can see they're nice and brown. They look great. So we're getting ready. We're almost ready to start plating. And I'm going to take my water over here to set it out of my way. Now we're going to start on our hollandaise. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 3 egg yolks and we're going to put them in the blender. I'm going to take the top off of this because this is kind of like a mayonnaise, right? So we're going to drizzle the butter in here. But we're going to start off by getting our eggs a little bit pale yellow. It's called the ribbon stage. So starting off with my eggs, those go in. Okay. Put as much lemon as you want. I like mine kind of lemon forward, so I pulled the seeds off these earlier, so I'm just checking them. I don't want one seed. I didn't get one seed. If you squeeze it into your hands, if you get a seed, or you can use one of those juicers. Okay. And you can always taste this too, right? And I like a pinch of cayenne. You don't have to. Just a little pinch. Okay. Put my top back on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour my hot butter in this measuring cup. So I'm going to put it in here. It's just a stick of butter. The recipe's going to be attached. And again, I want to go slow. When you're doing a mayonnaise, you want to go slow because it will break. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. The other part about using the blender instead of whisking is you will have less, it will be less apt for it to break. So I'm checking it, it did not break. And you know what, I'm looking at it, and it's pretty thick. So I'm gonna put just a smidge of water in it. I put about a teaspoon of water is what I did. And I'm gonna do a pinch of salt. And I'm gonna do some fresh ground pepper. But if you don't want the black, you can do white pepper if you want it to be prettier. Okay. And we're gonna put the top back on. And then we're ready to plate. And this is gonna be so delicious. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a small spoon and I'm gonna taste it real quick. I always keep tasting spoons next to my stove because you do need to taste your food. The consistency is exactly what I want it to be. It's delicious. I will say for me, I'm gonna do just a smidge more lemon. Smidge more lemon. Okay, so all of our ingredients are done. We've got our English muffins done, our eggs are done, our steaks have rested, our hollandaise is ready, so we're going to go ahead and plate. And like I said, all the steps are done, so then it makes it pretty simple. So you start off by putting your steak on each of them, just like this. Perfect. And I've kind of trimmed up my little bits and pieces for my eggs. So you put those on there too. And kind of look for the prettiest side of the egg. You know, I'm going to trim this one up a little bit more. My dog's running in here. He knows there's some food in here. Our dog is a beggar. Pretty. Perfect. We're going to take a couple of these little green onions to add some color to it. Just like this. And that's perfect. So I made this coffee recipe and it's attached, this coffee ice cream. It says to soak the beans overnight. I didn't do that because I didn't have time. If you're like me and you're just in a hurry, you can increase the coffee. So it says a half a cup of coffee beans. I take the whole beans, I crush them up in a Ziploc or a mortar and pestle. So I just did it about 3/4 a cup so I could still have that coffee flavor. So, you know, we're just going to do this and put some ice cream in here. This is the homemade ice cream. I think you're going to love it. Of all the ice creams I've ever made, now my friend Jody makes ice cream all the time, but it's not something that I typically make. But I have to say this is pretty luxurious, in keeping with our theme of making something special. Okay, and then we're going to drown it, which is what affogato means. What we did is we took heavy cream and a little bit of confectioner's sugar, about a teaspoon, so about a cup of heavy cream, teaspoon of confectioner's, and a teaspoon of vanilla. There's a lot of sweet stuff going on here, so you don't really need a ton in the heavy cream. You really want it to be a complement, but not cloyingly sweet. So I would recommend adjusting based on your preference. If you're the type of person that likes a lot of really sweet things, you can adjust it accordingly. So what I've got here is I've got a chocolate bar that I had. This is 100% cocoa, so it's not going to have any sweetness. It's just pure chocolate. And I'm going to put that over the top of this. As soon as we get the coffee in, whipped cream, and then we're going to taste our dish. Oh, thank you, honey. Russell, right on the perfect timing. So Russell has brewed, we put it in here so it'll be easier to pour, but this is some espresso. You can use a French press, you know, espresso maker. You can swing by Starbucks and pick it up, make your life easy. But we're going to drown this, as we mentioned before. And the smaller one's for me because I'm not a big coffee drinker. I don't really like it too much. This is good because I like the ice cream in it. And I'm going to put the little Cool Whip in there, the whipped topping. I keep wanting to call it Cool Whip. The Cool Whip company should hire me. Okay, we're going to put that in there. This drink is going to be so yummy. And then we've got the chocolate bar, as I mentioned before. Just use anything you have. And just kind of grate it over the top just to give it a little prettiness. There we go. All right. Russell. Here you go, precious. How is that? Come over here. Let's do the test and see if the egg is the perfect runniness.
Boy, is that good.
Is it good?
It's great.
You gotta get in there and taste the ice cream too. Okay, so we're gonna cut in here. Oh, look at that. That's perfect. Perfect. See the runniness? You gotta get the perfect bite. I want you to have the whole thing. You gotta open up big for it though. I love it when you smile like that. Voila. This is one of my husband's favorite meals. Thank you for coming. We hope that you'll try this dish as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you can get notification of our upcoming videos. We post every Thursday and you won't want to miss a single video.